Shit. Thank you, Mr. Parks, for pointing that out. I had not hit the mic. So we're a little bit into this. I'm going to repeat myself. Um, so Kalamax is the deck that I'm working with, Dragon's Approach. And at the end of part one, I was kind of conflicted between the cards that I wanted to play, and I kept on saying, "Oh, I want to force this in. I want to force it." Locket of Yesterday's, Nantaco Shrine, as that is what I was just talking about. So there's a lot of cool cards that could work with it, and and I was just cutting because they weren't going to work with the idea of big dragons making big mana and um, copying instant speed X spells. And so um, I I decided that I wanna do both. I wanna do both, and they're 2 different decks, but I don't have, I don't have 50 Dragons Approach, and so what I'm gonna have is, kind of a transformative sideboard, and, that's kind of what we're gonna do tonight. We're going to figure out, how to make both decks work, how to fit it in, and it looks like I have about 16 spots. We can kinda go through that. Through the week, I've gone down to 24 Dragons Approach at this point. I was at 26, went down to 25, now I'm at 24. It felt weird to have a Calmax deck with no Beast Within, and it's severely lacking removal in the deck. It's severely lacking, um, a lot of stuff. And I do worry about a Dragon's Approach deck because I don't really play tutors, and this is clearly a tutor, but it's there's hoops. There's hoops that you gotta jump around. And the problem is I think this deck's gonna play out very similar every time because you just have over 30% of your deck are the same damn card. But I still want to be able to play these cards that you just cannot play in any other deck. And so I'll go through some of the stuff that's been added. Other stuff was in part one, so I'm not going to really talk about it. But Nantucko Shrine is really, really cool in this deck. I highly suggest that. Goblin, Electromancer, and Baral, and really the Ruby Medallion. So let's talk about these a little bit. It's not land ramp, but when you're reducing the spell by one and you want to be casting Dragon's Approach multiple times in a turn, they turn in of, hey, Mr. Poyos. He's over from the exiled, which is fun to see him. Thanks for joining. And so like with these cost reducers, and you're if you're doing a bunch of, I think, I've had turns when I'm gold fishing this deck where I'm dealing like 50 to 80 damage and I'm casting these in play and then from my graveyard, from my hand and to the graveyard, and it kind of gets crazy and lots of copies. And when you're reducing the cost, it makes it just a lot easier for your mana to go instead of like land or artifact where you're just getting the one. So this is Spellslinger decks is where you want the cost reducers of cards like this. And so let's go with the graveyard stuff that can get really crazy. So Backdraft Hellkite was not a dragon I was considering at the beginning because it doesn't do big mana. It has the graveyard, where you're being able to play that a ton. And then Mizzix's mastery is bonkers in this. You're just able to, because I'm not really getting rid of the Dragon's Approach from my graveyard unless I really have to. And so with Mizzix's mastery, you could be casting your Dragon's Approach 8 times super easy, and that's just happening when you overload it. And then Leard is doing the same thing as Backdraft Hellkite, just a little bit easier and a little bit more flexible because the instant speed draws also help you when you're able to do that. So I thought that these graveyard synergies would help me cast Dragon's Approach quite a bit, and they will not disappoint. I highly suggest those as well. Thousand Year Storm. I know a lot of people like this card. I have never played it. I've owned it since it came out, but I haven't played it, and it's a really, really cool card. And it's kind of a lot of math at a certain degree, but um, I'm excited to play with this, and I don't think, Adam is excited for me to play with this, so we'll see about that. Circara is another this is a really good, like, card advantage card in the deck because you're able to exile 3 cards off the top of your library. You're almost always hitting a Dragon's Approach and being able to do it again. Uh, yep. Poyos, this is right now, I'm talking about, it's gonna be a burn deck, but I'm also going to do a dragon deck, on the back half of this. So, but right now I'm talking about, like, enabling the Dragon's Approach burn deck, and then we'll see how else it works. Pyromancer's Ascension is another one that's just gonna easily be copying and doing a bunch of stuff there. This is another cost reducer, when you flip it. Chandra's Incinerator is probably just super good because this ends up being removal, quite easy, and it's a easy red mana. Niv Mizzet Perun is just there for draw and a little bit of ping, but it's not going to do a whole ton. It's more there for the draw. Locket of Yesterdays really reduces the cost on Dragon's Approach, especially since you're not really getting rid of the Dragon's Approach from your graveyard. So it'll almost always cost you 1 red. Uh, Nullspine Dragon is there just to draw more cards and get more Dragon's Approach in your hand in the graveyard. Immolating Gyre, you're going to have a lot of instant sorceries um in your graveyard. I talked about this in part 1. Spellweaver's Helix, also from part 1. So cards that I want to add into this deck, especially with like Spellweaver's Helix, this being a sorcery, if I can cast Dragon's Approach multiple times and get a Jessica's Will going off, holy moly, that sounds crazy, right? And then it's just kind of, it's ramp and it's or like card draw to a degree. It's just something that kind of work in here. So I want to work with that. Electric Revelation, I talked about this in part 1. It's kind of cool. I had this in the deck at the end of part 1. I kind of want to get it back in there just for easy burn when it flips. Pull from Tomorrow is just like more powerful draw, and we'll see if that can just fit in. Thought Scour and Mental Note. I was worried about getting rid of my dragons when we finished part 1, but since the deck has changed and I don't care if dragons approach or dragons get into the graveyard, I'm more willing to try that. Super cheap, easy instance can be copied with Kalamax. Seems pretty cool. And then Harness the Storm. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell from your hand, you may cast target card with the same name as that spell from your graveyard. Um, this isn't flashback; it doesn't go away, and so you're able to get kind of like copies from your graveyard. Seems cool. Well, and this is another card that just isn't going to go in any other deck, and so this is something that interests me in this deck specifically. Let's go through the rest of the deck that I have together right now. This is more of what I'm going to consider like the core of the deck. Most of these cards probably won't get switched out in between the two, the Dragon deck and the Dragon's Approach deck. And so, okay, so Poyos is asking, is bonus round in? Did I miss it in part 1? I do not have bonus round. I have not considered it, and I think it's a good question. Bonus round will copy um all the spells that is it just one or all the spells after you cast bonus round? So that seems like a really cool, interesting idea. And I think it's a sorcery if I'm remembering right. Because one thing you gotta worry a little bit about with Calmax for me personally, because Calmax is an easy uh combo commander with any sort of fork effect, and I don't like or enjoy combo to a degree, even though this Dragon's Approach deck kind of feels combo-y. I'll admit that. And kind of is rustling my jimmies a little bit more than I anticipated. And so yeah, we'll see there. So this is more of the core of the deck. I don't think this is going to change nearly as much. Harrow's a great card to copy with Calamax because you're only sacrificing 1 mana for 4. This is here for the draw discard, like I was talking about. Same thing with Faithless Looting. Court of Calling is really good in Calamax as well. Instant, you're able to tap it, so it's automatically copied, and it's going to go and get Leer or backdraft Hellkite. Okay, so bonus round is all spells for your turn, and it's 2 red red? Hmm, I thought it was colorless red red, but that's, um that seems solid too. I might have to go and consider that, and then if, for the spotlight deck, the final deck tech that it will do, that might make it in there or at least be considered. But, Court of Calling is really cool because it doesn't just have to be dragons, but I can go and get dragons too, and it's easy to put the Null Spine Dragon in play or Niv-Mizzet or go and get Lear or any other supportive, Dockside Extortionist just to get more mana. Could be Soul Ring, we know that. Cryptolith Right, and let's talk about Earthcraft. Earthcraft is bonkers. This is Cryptolith Right on steroids. If you don't have it, understand there's reserve list. It's over $100. It's fucking crazy. Um, yeah, okay. Bonus round is one red red. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. So, but Earthcraft has got it. Smoking if you got it, in my opinion. But with the squirrels being created from the shrine, it basically just gives you infinite mana at that point. And with Cryptolith Right, it makes me feel like I want my cards to be that good. Like if I can get two Earthcrafts, that'd be great. And so maybe I need to get Hatred in this deck, and I have it in the other one, so that might work both ways. Frantic Search is a fantastic ramp card here because you're untapping 6 mana instead of just 3, and it really works. Storm Kiln Artist is bonkers. It's still bonkers. It's so good in red spell-based decks, like, it's amazing. Uh, Explosion is great, talked about that last time. Thrill Possibility, same thing. Paradise Mantle will help tap Kalamax with mana. Dense foliage. This is something that's going to help protect your big creatures like Calamax or your dragons because I'm not running a lot of spot removal, so it's not going to affect me. But creatures cannot be the target of spells. And I love this card, and I probably it tells me I need to run more spot removal since I'm running this more, but I don't have you just can't fit a lot of removal in this deck. So I think this is a good way to go. Plus Storm is bonkers with Calamax, Arcane Signet, Chaos Warp, obviously. Sorcerer's class is it works both ways because I want to be drawing and discarding. This does 2 and 2, but also when you go red blue, then your creatures turn into like an Earthcraft or Cryptolith, Cryptolith Right for your instances sorceries because so then it just becomes both. And it's really high utility in here, and it's cool. And then you can also deal damage if you're getting there too. Beast Within, I talked about that. Is It Charm is a lot of flexibility along with the draw discard theme. Makes sense, makes sense, makes sense, right? So that's where the deck is right now. Let's talk about some so how do we get these cards, if I can, into the deck that I already have together? And it's okay if it doesn't, because I know I'm probably already just gonna cut pull from tomorrow. I think it's just too big, too fat. It's not gonna fit. And I'm probably gonna get rid of Electric Revelation at this point too. But I like the idea of Thought Scour, Mental Note, the Smoldering Egg, Harness the Storm. So let's just run through and see if there's something here that I can cut. I don't want to get rid of Helix. Gyre is going to be helpful since it's a Wrath effect. No snipe. This part I think is kind of tight. Um, and what I'm going to be looking for is like for this is going to be like my draw spells. Is there anything there? Um, for this, I don't. And oftentimes it's kind of easy if you're doing like for like. And these aren't going to be like, and these aren't going to be like. So this one is kind of weak, but once it flips, it becomes a decent blocker, and you're almost always going to flip it the turn after you cast it. So it turns in a 3/4. Your Dragon's Approaches are going to be one less, so it's like a brawl. Has prowess, probably never going to attack. It's probably a better blocker in this deck, but it's cheap and it's kind of I like it at this point because I don't you don't really have a lot of ramp at this point either. Ascension's good. Sarkara can really just kind of go off, but maybe that's kind of something like Jessica's Will. And so the question ends up being like Jessica's Will is easier to cast, but this is going to be more consistent. Thousand Year Storm seems is crazy. It is. Mastery is crazy. Hellkite's awesome. Lyra is awesome. Baral is awesome. Goblin, Electromancer, boom, boom, boom. Okay, so there's it's pretty tight in there as being kind of like a bunch of the cards that just work that I want to have work, but maybe Curious Homunculus for the Smoldering Egg. That could be something that w- that happens. That can like all of these cards are just like let's play through it, see if it works, see if it doesn't. Because right now the list is just pretty tight. Um, let's see there. So let's go through the core of the deck and let's see if there's something there too. So Dockside works. Careful Study. Careful Study is interesting because I do like it at 1 red. I get to control what's going into the graveyard, um, but it's a sorcery, and if I can double up with Thought Scour and Mental Note being an instant with a tapped Kalamax, which isn't hard to do, that can be, that's milling 4, drawing 2, and then that's actually, like, card advantage rather than this kind of card right here, though cheap and you're able to choose, it's actually card disadvantage because you're not putting cards into your hand and you're losing one casting this. So technically, it is card disadvantage to that point. Is a Charm seems pretty um, flexible. Beast Within Sod. I just said Sorcerer Class and Chaos Warp and Arcane Signet. Luster Storm. Oh, this is going to be real fucking tough. Paradise Mantle. I think that works. It works just enough. Works just enough. Thrill of Possibility being an instant kind of makes it. Explosion is solid. Storm Killed Artist. I might be falling behind here. Okay. Poyos is thinking that Circara gets out and pull from tomorrow since Kalamax doubles it and cards go directly to hand. That Dockside Extortionist looks cool. I'm loving the proxy. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So this is I should point that out. I should sell us a little bit. Okay, so Adam does proxies. If you did not know, he kind of turns the arts into full arts, especially on highly played cards. We just updated our printers, and so they're going to look even crisper than this. We're doing foils. I don't have any of those yet, but if you're interested, become a patron, and we do giveaways on that. Um, So what are you saying about Sakara gets out from pull from tomorrow since Kalamax doubles? Oh, you're liking pull from tomorrow a bit more than Sakara? Yeah. I mean, that's a really good point. Pull from tomorrow is an instant. Jessica's Will is solid as well. Like I don't think I've played with this. I don't think I've played with Jessica's Will yet. Um One thing yeah. One thing about Pull from Tomorrow, which is nice in this style of deck with it just trying to cast as many Dragon's Approach as possible, is you don't care how many cards you draw, and if you discarding 1, but if you're discarding, you know, from 14 down to 7, that's fine. You're perfectly fine doing that in this deck because you almost wanna load up your graveyard, and so I think I think you have a good point there. I'll put that under there. I am perfectly fine with that. Alright, we're there. Alright, Frantic Search is pretty cool. Cryptolith Right, is that anything I I still like it in here. There's not a lot of creatures though. So that can be problematic if you don't get the shrine and you're not getting the squirrels. You don't have a lot of creatures. And so since we already have like Earthcraft, the class, maybe Cryptolith Right can be in there for the Smoldering Egg. Gives me another creature to kind of like block with. Because one thing about Dragon's Approach in the burn style deck is that you can just get run over. You don't have a lot of presence on the board if a deck comes out swinging at you. And so that part I can see being problematic. And so, I mean, the fact that Jessica's Will is in the maybe pile is hurting my brain. Right? Okay, I see what you're saying, Corey. Um, I just it wasn't I just pulled it, and so I'm trying to figure out how to pull it in there, but understand that Calamax is instant heavy. I have a ton of sorceries, and so It's good, clearly good, but I don't know if it's gonna fit in here. I do like pull from tomorrow because it's gonna draw me a ton of cards. Earthcraft, I think just works just because you don't have to worry about the haste part, like, it just happens. Soul Ring, Court of Calling has been an all-star. I like that a lot. Faithless Looting, I think is interesting from that standpoint, like, I'm fine with both of those. Prismatic Command is solid, Harrow works. So right now my 3 spot is super jammed in here, and so whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell from your hand, you may cast target, you still pay its cost. Okay, so that's but it doesn't go away with Harness the Storm. So it allows me to play not lose stuff from my hand if I'm worried about that. So I gotta think about that. What do you guys think about, like, getting rid of the 2 sorceries with Faithless Looting and Careful Study for the kind of the randomness of mill? Target player you're putting the top 2 cards and then you're drawing a card, but it's an instant speed. What do you guys think about, like, that switch? I think it's close. Having the choice is kinda nice, and flipping yeah, I'll have to think about that a little bit too. But, um So Poyos is also thinking Cryptolith Right is out for Smoldering Egg. I think Smoldering Egg is just gonna be doing a bit more, and that's just something that's weak. I think I'm just gonna make that switch right now. Let's get r right out of here. Yeah, out of here. Let's get that more dragons, for that dragons approach part. Kind of feeling guilty that I only had 3 dragons in here. Now I have 4. I'm happy again. I'm happy. Um, okay, let's go through this style. All right, Poyos is kind of the same thinking. Instant speed and for the sorcery speed. I'm down. All I needed was just a little bit of yes, I agree with you, and that's what I got. And that makes me happy. We'll see how that runs because the cards aren't going anywhere. I have them, and so if it doesn't really work, and I just am not liking it, I can always switch them back out. But instant speed totally works with Kalamax, and that's what I want. And so, um, and I have been running out of cards. So that's another thing to consider is where I was talking about that is kind of card disadvantage to where this is like net 0 unless I have Kalamax, which is net 1, which is good. Um, Mr. Parks is saying, I need 5 dragons. And I think the next one is going to be that. So we're there. We like that. We're here. And so right now we're looking at Sarkara the Bold. And I think with it just being instant, I'm fine with pull from tomorrow. Um, but I have Jessica's Will there just in case there's like some ramp issues, because that does kind of happen. And I'm about to cut this guy who is also kind of ramp. And that 3 spot, like I was saying, is fucking rough. Um let's cut Sakura because I agree. Pull from tomorrow is gonna be a massive hit, just cards into hand, moving stuff. Never gonna lose it. Because I was noticing that when I was goldfishing with Circara, is that you get rolling and you're just casting a bunch, and then you flip a dragon and you're down to like 2 mana and you can't do anything about it. And you're like, well, I just lost a dragon. That's kind of sucks. So let's see if Jessica's Will can make it somewhere in there. Curious Homunculus can be there. I don't want to mix this too much because we're going to try and put that other deck in here. Okay. So Harness the Storm, Jessica's Will. I don't think Jessica's Will is on theme here, even though it's a fantastic card. We just added Pull from Tomorrow, which is going to add a lot of cards in the hand. And then the other 2 instants. I think we can cut Jessica's Will as a thought at this point. and let's just fucking get rid of this. Uh, Curious Homunculus for the Harness the Storm, and we'll see if that is able to just kind of keep on going because I think that can work. So I think that's kind of a cool thing that'll make it very different from the dragons version. And right now, I'm kind of happy with that change. Kind of happy with that change right now. Um, let's see where we're at for like creatures and whatnot. So enchantment, artifact, sorcery, creature, enchantment. Let's see here. I'm doing that wrong. Um, enchantment, sorcery, creature, artifact, enchantment, instant, creature, enchantment. And so this allows me to see like, do I have enough creatures blocking? Even though, do I have enough draw? I'm happy with that. I already know that I'm happy with like the amount of draw and stuff like that. Enchantment, instant, okay. Artifacts, instant, enchantment, instant creature. So let's look at like the support here. So that seems 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. That, I mean, it's not a lot in Kalamax, and then you have the tokens from the shrine. You know, obviously not a ton. You are kind of a burn deck, and you're just hoping to hit like the top end. Like you hope that you just have that crazy turn and just as quick as you can. I think this kind of works. It's either ramp, removal, or draw. That's what we're working with. So I'm happy with that part right there. And at this point, we will fit out. Now, next thing, let's talk about cards that I want to put in for the dragon part. Let's kind of talk about the dragons first. Or we're gonna go and get it. All right. Doo-doo-doo-doo. So you got a Tarkar World Render, which is whenever a dragon attacks, it gets double strike. So that can just end a game pretty quickly. Old Gnawbone, which is going to create a ton of treasures when you have creatures deal damage. Savage Ventmaw, which gives you 6 when it attacks. You have Clouth, which is going to give you mana for the power that it attacks with. And then Leyline Tyrant allows your red mana to stick around, and then if somebody kills it, you can deal a bunch of damage that way, hopefully. So that's my big-ish mana package. You know, this is more just to kind of end the game, but I think right off the bat, I'm just going to cut that because it's not dealing with mana. And I want to do some big damage with instants. So that's where we're going to be at right here, being able to save the mana and create a bunch of mana right there. A lot of this is dealing with like attacks and attacking and dealing damage. And so we'll probably just do straight swaps for the 4 dragons that we have in the other deck. So that should be fairly easy. Let's look at, all right, that's a weird discussion. One thing that I want to do is aggravated assault. If you don't know, this is just you're going to go infinite with the amount of mana that you're creating as long as you can get through. So I could do that. I might still put it in there, but I'm not going to worry about it. But Savage Beating, on the other hand, is an instant, gives double strike, and you can get another attack step. And if you copy that with Kalamax, that's kind of a big beaten. Maybe a Savage Beating. Yeah, I didn't mean to do that. So Aggravated Assault off the bat is going to get cut because I know I can go infinite, but if you want to, you can do it. Savage Beating is going to be sweet. I talked about these 3, and I think I'm actually going to cut these again. And what they are: draw 3, discard 2, unless you meet some type of requirement. And I want overlap so it's easy to just like switch cards around in and out. So I don't want to think too hard here. All right, should catch up on the chat. All right. Speaking of dragons, what is the best mono red dragon for a commander centered around treasure tokens? Mono red? Oh, I'm not thinking about that right now. I'm sorry. Probably Bale. Yeah, okay. I think Leyline might be cut instead. Holding back mana like a crew fix deck seems kinda not good. I think that's a good point with the Leyline Dragon, like, holding up mana, but it's also not that bad because I don't think I'm going to have there's only a handful of instant speed, like, big bombs that I'm gonna be able to do, right? So we have let's talk about those. There's Klaus Will that is gonna be able to beat up a bunch of artifacts and enchantments and then dealing damage to creatures with a flying, but that's not dealing damage to Fault Line is all non-flying creatures and to every player. That could be nice and huge. Fall of the Titan, I'm able to just or put X damage to each of up to 2 target creatures and then copy that with being instant speed. Comet Storm is always great. And then there's also Squall Line, which is instant speed, deals X damage to each creature with flying and each player. So these are just like if you double it up, you might be killing your creatures, but you're dealing a bunch of damage to people. Definitely in there because copying it feels so good. Savage Beating is totally in there, and then Fall of the Titans I can see making it. And then these other three, I have to make the decision like this is killing Kalamax, this is killing Kalamax, and this is killing my dragons. So, like, they don't super work, but being able to if I don't have enough X spells, having the Leyline Tyrant around is gonna be nice because it saves that mana just in case, and if somebody does like, until I get the X spell, but if somebody does kill it, you can just empty all that red mana into it, whatever's left over, and you don't have it's whatever's left over. Um, so those are kind of the big spells, we'll see if I can fit those in. And I'm trying to cheat dragons in. So, I got Court of Calling, Dragonstorm. Dragonstorm is pretty cool. And I don't see why I can't put that in there. I cut Birds of Paradise in the other one, but I'm assuming that Birds of Paradise goes into this one. The other thing that I did notice in the draw discard style is that I'm putting a lot of lands into the graveyard. And so I could do Crucible, but I think Crucible is better when you're just casually doing it with like fetches and stuff like that. But this can be a huge boost if I can fit that in there. The other thing I was saying is I get a lot of lands into hand, and so Seismic Assault is weird and out of place, but also can just be doing 2 damage. I think it's gone. I think it's just gone. Mana Geyser is, and I should probably talk about the other rituals here. All right, let's talk about these other rituals. So rituals are going to help with the Dragonstorm idea. And also they can pump out a dragon much quicker. If I'm not worried about the dragon's approach or something like that. And so this one draws you a card, and this is just giving you, 6 mana with Kalamax, 6 mana with Kalamax, and not being copied. So I think I like these kind of better than Mana Geyser in this deck right now. Um, but like this one's just raw powerful, right? So we'll see where that goes. A couple of other things like the graveyard does get filled pretty quick. So Crows and Restore seems kind of cool. Like being able to get the threshold, untap 3 lands seems powerful. But it might be, it's competing in that 3 slot. It can't really block. So I don't know if that's something that I want to do. Instead of reclamation, like discarding stuff, maybe I want to be playing lands from my hand more, like a Zeus the Lost but Seeking, not one of Adam's proxies. But I made this before he was making proxies, and he has not gotten to that yet. World Shaper brings all the lands back into play. Those ideas probably just aren't going to work. Windfall does a lot of cards, and that is kind of nice. Oh, that's a good point. Seething Song gives 10 mana for 3. That's kind of big. I might have to go and find that. That I think is a good idea. Windfall is another draw discard effect. I had cut these, but I think haste is more important with these dragons that are needed to like be attacking and dealing damage and stuff like that. Dryad of the Elysian Grove is an extra mana, and is a blocker, kind of stuff that I talked about last time. I was saying that lands get stuck in my hand, and so maybe Tectonic Reformation, where I can pay a red discard a land, draw a card, moves me through decks kind of quicker. Uh, Anger, easy to get in the graveyard in this kind of deck, and then just gives everything haste. Quandrix Apprentice, whenever you cast or copy, you get to look at the top 3 cards and put a land from them into your hand. And this puts lands in your hands like crazy in this one. So I think it's cool. Exploration is just like that idea of just like trying to get a land, extra land into from my hand into play. Frontier Siege I think is cool. But I because what it can you can choose to have 2 green during your main phase and your second main phase, or whenever a flyer comes into play, it fights. So it kind of works in this deck, but I only have 4 dragons at this point. And so I'm just gonna cut that right now. So those were just ideas. So let's work on getting stuff out. We'll keep that. And I already said trading those 4 dragons right away. Lyra's gonna go. Baral, Goblin. I still like Chandra's in there. It's doing a lot of work. But those 4 dragons are just gonna get traded out right away. I still like Sorcerer. This might be able to be switched out for like a land or something like that. Dense Foliage, I think, is gonna get cut. Earthcraft is still crazy. Willing to cut it, willing to cut. Willing to cut, willing to cut. That needs to be in there. That is good. Golden, 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 golden. Okay, we're into the so mental note. This deck I'm a little bit more worried because I'm really reliant on the dragons. So I don't really want to just blind mill stuff in this deck. So I'm willing to get rid of that. Pull from Tomorrow's my baby. Willing to get rid of that. Gyre's still in. Arcane Signet's still in. Paradise Mana's Soul Ring. All right, these 2 will get dropped. So like, there's this whole package right here that can be cut. I think there's a lot more green in this one. It's not, but I mean, fucking Dragon's Approach. So let's get these dragons and just flip them over right away. Oh, all right. Let's get the dragons over there. 1, 2. Let's see here. 3, 4. We'll just switch those out pretty quick right here. What I need to do is I need to get more perfect fits because kind of running out, which is another move of desperation to combine these decks. If you didn't notice. So this is still kind of a cool thing that I'm going to be trying to do, and I don't know how practical it is. I'm going to get all the same sleeves, and I'm actually going to try and incorporate the other Kalamax deck that I have, so that it's just easy crossover between all 3 decks. Because I'm going to have Soul Ring, I'm going to have Arcane Signet, I'm going to have some overlap with the draw spells, and so I'm hoping that works. All right. Got that. All right. Where are we going with this next? We have just some stuff. See you, Boyos. Thanks for coming out. We have the graveyard stuff that we don't want to do that necessarily. Our copying. So we know those have go. I know we want these to go. And then we'll just, we don't have to cut these right away. We're just trying to think of what's going to make the deck different. It's going to make it feel different. And so we're going to cut the spell slinging dragons. We're going to cut the graveyard shenanigans, and then let's see where we can go from there. I wanted Greaves and Boots in this list and getting rid of Dense Foliage and maybe something else. That's my protection. We'll go with Greaves. I don't necessarily care at this point, but just having haste in here is going to be really nice and important. So let's also go with did I? All right, let's get anger. Anger. I've been saying hatred. What am I doing? Lowry, what are you doing? All right, let's just cut this Pyromancer's Ascension. Let's get anger in there. Hatred's a black card. Come on. And Adam calls me the savant. What is going on? And then we'll cut this one as well. And so we know like these are pretty unique cards and just able to cut them real quick and easy. And then it'll probably make it harder in the future, in the near future. And so we have cards that we want to kind of get into my hand. All right. So we have the land situation. We have drawing. Let's look at the land. We have the ramp. We have then we got the big ones. So let's work at least the 3 big ones that I had already talked about. All right. So I want to get 1, 2, 3, those 3 in there at least. So let's get Thousand Year Storm out of there. And we'll put Fall of the Titan. And so we're just trying to identify like some of the win cons on the other one and switching in win cons for this one. And that should make it easier to switch and check it out. Savage Beating should be kind of cool. It'll give it double strike. Hell yeah, right? So the I do really like the spell slinging version of this, so I'm happy that I at least have one. This version, the dragon version, I don't know. It might be too many pieces coming together that I'm not sure if that really matters. You know what? Let's go with a ritual version. Let's just go with rituals. Let's get Jessica's ritual in this one. And then we can do Dragonstorm, and because we got 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We got 2 easy swaps. So let's do those easy swaps. Dragonstorm and Jessica's Will. Then let's look at this pile of whatever's maybes. Okay, so this is, mana. Let's look at that. 1, 2, 3, easy. Let's get rid of Baral. Again, don't know if it's easy because I have a feeling like I'm losing a bunch of like those support creatures that can be roadblocks or bumps, whatever. But yeah, we'll do that for now. I was thinking like having the rituals one cheaper makes it, a little bit better. Let's get rid of this. Can be crazy. Like that's just powerful, even with it being a sorcery. Maybe I need to go. This is probably just a seething song in the future. Sorcerer's class. Let's go with that. Desperate Ritual. And then I'll probably get rid of the Shrine. Yeah. The Shrine still probably be good in this, but again, trying to make a different deck than what I was talking about before. Okay, we still have plenty of cards that we want to fit in here somehow. So how do we get, I want to be looking for how do I get this card advantage? How do I do that? I probably got to do Birds of Paradise. So in this version with the rituals, I probably wouldn't do Splendor Reclamation. I'd probably just be happy, with the rituals rather than Reclamation. All right, so these are extra lands into play. This is cheating, so we get to get rid of World Shaper. I don't think Crows and Restore makes it in here at all. The extra lands per turn probably doesn't make it either. Still might not hate that. Um, Windfall, Quandrix Apprentice, these in here. Okay, where are we at here? We have I like the Apprentice. I like it more than I anticipate, but it does I'm not able to get the lands from my hand into play, but it is nice to be able to, like, just discard the cards, and it doesn't matter. Um, and I don't think this is good enough without that. I think that whole land package without Quandrix doesn't really work, and so maybe Windfall works in there. Is there a different version where I'm happy with this? Maybe Klaus Will is a way to kinda, like, get a lot of stuff off my ass, 'cause it's just gonna kill all the creatures when it's doubled, but being able to get rid of everybody's artifacts and enchantments seems sweet as well. Um, let's let's try and fit in Klaus Will. It's a little bit bigger, it's a little bit higher, but I think that kinda works there. And at this point, I have no idea where my my draw is. I don't know where my ramp is. I don't know. Um, I just know that I'm not going to be moving the Dragon's Approach. I'll leave that at 24. Then I don't gotta screw around with that at all. Um, and we'll see where we're at. Let's do card types. So that's going to be ramp, removal, technically ramp, 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 ramp. This is kind of like a duel. So we'll say that's ramp and or drawing. This is just cheating cards into play. This is going to be removal. This is kind of extra comment removal or whatever. Removal, protection. That'll be a random thing. Taste, taste, taste. We have the dragons over here. 3, 4. Mana, 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 mana. Removal. Draw, draw, removal, removal. Draw, draw, draw. That's kind of that right there. Draw, ramp, removal, ramp, removal, ramp, ramp, draw. Okay, so I'm looking at this. I already know this then. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, we need to up that for sure. The ramp is looking a bit thicker. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. It's still so do I care about the instance? Maybe I can cut these two, just be happy with, like, the draw on Manamorphose, Mana Geyser, and then we also have Jessica's Will. I think those are just, like, powerful, and they're not just, like, bad um, without Kalamax. I'm still tempted to do Seething Song. I thought that was a good idea, but I wanna somehow turn these into draw at this point. Anger, the haste, I think that's good stuff. I want to get the dragons into play somehow, and I still have the rituals. I still think that might work, but it might not either. And that works for me in my mind. I already know that I like the dragons, aiming for those at this point. Where's my removal at? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Hmm. Kind of 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. And then I have explosion and I have, yeah, okay. So we're going to try and turn these into draw spells of some sort. And then we can look at our curve a little bit because I think this is definitely a higher curve. And so, but you need the draw. If you don't have the draw, what have I cut so far? That could be different. Let's go look at the old deck and see what we cut. That does both, which is nice. I mean, that still technically works, but I don't care. that could still be interesting because I can still trigger that. Okay, that's not a draw spell. Lowry, what are you doing? Okay, that's not drawing me cards, but I can still. This is still like a doubling effect with my X spells later on because I can, as long as there's two counters on there, it can just get nutso. All right, let's go back and look some of the cards that I cut earlier. Okay, so I'm looking at, and the easiest thing is to just like switch those back in. Just 1 mana, I think is pretty nice. I don't have a lot at that point. I'm not reducing my spells cost, so this gets kind of expensive. I kinda do like this because I can flash it back, and then the additional cost. So I get to draw 2 cards, copy it with Kalamax is 4 total, and then I can flash it back. That intrigues me to at least try it. Um, Pulse of the Grid is still kinda cool here. Because it's instant, and then if you have less cards, then if an opponent has more cards in hand than you, return it to your hand. Um, and so if I have these in here, I probably want to think about that at least. I still think sorcerer class is this is probably where it goes because it also works with my other Calamax deck, which would be like just getting ramp from that kind of thing. So I would like that kind of crossover, and maybe I shouldn't be thinking like that at this point. Um, Anybody have any opinions on putting risk factor into this one? This is target opponent may have risk factor deal 4 damage to them, and that player doesn't. You draw 3 cards, and so you copy that with Calmax. It has jump start. Maybe that's just a different deck. Maybe that doesn't matter right now. Um, all right, how do we get cards in my? How do we do that? I think the easiest solution, just the 1 manas. I think those turn into Faithless Looting and Careful Study, which is maybe a little disappointing. And that's also making me wonder if I should have Dragon Storm in there. But I'm fucking trying to get dragons out, right? How do you have a dragon deck and not want to have Dragon Storm in there? So, but I think being able to get Dragon's Approaches into the graveyard, being able to cast that pretty quick is ideal. I think that's cut right there. I still like that. Um, and I'm enticed by this. I want to be able to play it. It just kind of came out. Is there anything else here? I'm fine with the X spells. I like Windfall. I think all of this land stuff is just noise. So we can cut that at this point. So right now we're just kind of looking at six cards that have potential to go in. We have ramp. We got this all kind of sorted out. So let's kind of shuffle this up so that it's not like doing any biases. You want to get rid of any order that you have in your head and just make sure like, oh, this goes with that. That doesn't matter. Like it does, but you don't want it to really affect your choices on what you're cutting or why. So right now I have the deck. But we want to see like these are probably the last cards that I want to consider. I still like Pyromancer's Ascension in this version because I'm still trying to cast X spells, and being able to copy like rituals or whatever still seems really good in this deck. Um and so maybe I still like Boots and Greaves just for the protection, and maybe Anger. Maybe Anger needs to be cut for a draw spell. Savage Beating seems crazy. Storm Kill an Artist. That still works. Greaves. Poyos was saying Leyline Tyrant. Hmm. Hmm. I still able to hold on to red mana, especially if I just have these dragons when they attack and I'm not able to use it. I might though. Mm, is it charm? How many X spells is a decent question. Like, how many do I want in the deck? I think Comet Storm is great. Chandra's Incinerator, is that something that I care about right now? I think it just works. I think it just works in this deck so well. Earthcraft, but I'm not gonna be casting it a lot. You know, I will, but I'm trying to get okay. Acceptable to remove. Earthcraft, Careful Study, Pull from Tomorrow, Clouth, Prismari Command, Emeritus, Beast Within. Anamorphose isn't really a ritual. Do I really care about that? I'd probably rather have Sorcerer class. That's probably an alright. Switch out, switcheroo. Um, so Chandra's a Incinerator is a removal spell. So like I'm thinking Fault Line or Squall Line at this point. Mana Geyser seems pretty good with all the X spells and just would work with the X spells. Fluster Storm, Chaos Warp, Immolating Glare. Fall of the Titan. Because that works with the ritual. Like the Surge turns that in X damage to each of up to 2 target creatures and or players. Copying with Kalamax seems good. Yeah, I'm happy with that, especially with a couple of anger. Maybe anger goes. Maybe anger goes. Clouth's Will. I still like it. It's kind of doing the fault line part, just not to the face. Arcane Signet. Now this is where Dragonstorm. Dragonstorm. What would be better? Pyromancer's Ascension is just going to be better. I want my rituals to kind of go into the X spells as well. I'm probably fine with that at this point. Okay. So right now, didn't really add any draw cards, but let's get I think Metamorphose I'm definitely cool getting rid of. Sorcerer class back in. I think that works. It's mana, it's the draw discard thing. It works in this deck for sure. Um okay. Let's think. This is gonna be like the only time I'm ever going to play Dragonstorm, right? Whoa. Uh so Corey's just like the idea of like shuffling it up and just trying to like reshuffle the mind and trying to get rid of any biases on cards. And I, whatever you can do to change your mindset when doing cuts, like one, let's go into trying to make cuts a little bit here. When you're making cuts, you'll notice when I'm going through, I go, okay, how many creatures do I have? Okay, what is my CMC? How many um what are my effects doing? Do I have enough of these? Like each one of those is realigning my brain for what I'm in because each different one of these ways of looking at a deck, and when you're just blind going through and you shuffle it up and they're not in any order, it's also kind of giving you the random like, oh, why is this here? It's making you rethink why a card is there, and questioning cards is how you cut them. And so if you can find any different ways that you can figure out how to change your mindset on cards within the deck that you're building, it allows you to give different perspectives just on your own without without trying too hard, but just trying to find different angles on looking at cards will always help you just kind of cut. Um That's a good point. Leyline Tyrant, Mr. Parks is saying that it feels kind of like a mono red, maybe a dual color deck, but this is 3 colors. I get what you're saying, but I do want to be able to well, I probably have enough X spells here. Let me finish this thought, and then I'll probably go and see how many X spells I have, and maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe I have enough X spells that the Tyrant doesn't need to hold on to mana at all. All right. Good night, Mr. Parks. Thanks for hanging out with us. Oh, 7:30. 7:30 in the morning. All right. So these are the cards in question at this point, and I will respect that's the second voice saying that Leyline Tyrant just doesn't really fit here, and so I'll at least listen and consider it. Just going through Leyline Tyrant. I still don't think it's a bad one, just because the rituals are pumping out reds. Um, the other, the treasures don't really matter at this point, but Savage Vent Maw. Okay. Let's look at this. We only have 3 dragons if we cut Leyline Tyrant, and so Dragonstorm seems bad at that point. Like, it just doesn't matter. So I'm willing to cut this for Pyromancer's Ascension. Keep this here. Let's do that. Because I think you're still able to get there pretty easy. Okay. I still am looking for draw cards. I know that part. And so in that degree, I'm going to go with Leyline Tyrant, because this Chandra's Incinerator does a lot of work, but I just don't know how many Dragon's Approach I'm going to be casting anymore. And so but draw, this should be solid for me. I'm not going to worry about that too much. If I'm needing more draw, I can go with like the Windfall, Wheel of Fortune way. But I have those in a lot of decks, and so I don't have any problem saying like, oh, I don't need to use them in this deck. You should trying other cards makes decks feel different, and I enjoy that part. So really, we're down to 3. We're down to 3 cards. Do we want to fit them in here? How much? There's just a lot less creatures. I have Greaves and Boots in this version. I still think I like Anger in the other deck better, and so I'm just going to cut that. I don't really have any other draw spells, and so maybe we just go Squall Line, Fault Line, and try and like control the board. I think Chandra's Incinerator is fucking bonkers. Let's keep that. Let's keep that. Let's see here. Let's. Oop. Sorry. It's a tornado. Okay. Let's try and find some cards that might go in. I mean, I could just go Infinite. Oh, I could go with Tarker. Just get that other dragon in there. That can work. Just do that. I'm up to 4 dragons in there again. It's going to end the game pretty quick, especially, just trying to be able to end that. Let's look a bit more. Maybe let's go with our curve just to see where that's at right now. And because I think it's much higher in this one. Let's expel, say 1, 2. Let's make sure we're in frame here, huh? 2, 3, expel 1. This is technically just 1, 2, 0, 2, 3, 3, 4, 5. Okay. 1, X, say 6. This is technically 7. That's what I want to do it for. 5. Let's see here. 4, 2, X, 2, 3, 2, 3, 1, 7, 3, 2, 2, 6, 4, 7. Oh man. Yeah, my feels fat. I will concede that this feels pretty thick up top. So I'm glad I didn't add in those extra X spells. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's plenty. That is plenty. So okay. That is plenty. If I was going to cut something, I like them all. We'll see. We'll see. So we got that. Let's go with our 7s. Dragon, 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 and double strike. Extra attack step. It's hard to say if that's going to go or not. I like Ventmaw and I like Gyre here. Mana Geyser makes sense. Both crazy good in spell slinging decks. Nothing seems like totally out of place there. We have Ruby Medallion. Is that better just as like a ramp spell? Maybe, but I don't have to do that now. Ascension makes sense, makes sense, makes sense. Sorcerer class makes sense, makes sense, makes sense, makes sense. And the last bit, that all makes sense to me. All right, let's do. We'll see where everything kind of lines up now, like draw, ramp, and then if I'm relatively happy with that, we'll run with that. And then so we might be done here in the next 5 minutes ish, just to give you a warning. Protection, that's ramp, that's draw, discard, protection, ramp, draw. This is kind of just doubling, but it's kind of like a second Kalamax if I can consider that. Draw, removal. So the nice thing here is that can be ramp with the treasures, that can be draw, discard. So that kind of works too. This is a little bit of both, but we will say it is draw, ramp. Technically, the dragons are going to be ramp. That's removal, ramp. That's a beating. That's savage beating. Nope. Draw. We'll say that's removal. Let's draw. That's cheating stuff into play. That's going to be removal. That's going to be removal. All right. Let's see if we're happy with where 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Still 13. I'm fine with that. Let's see here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And I'm happy. I'm happy with that. A little bit of protection. Some game enders. And so I think that's where we're going to be. I'm kind of happy with that. I'll do a spotlight deck here within the next year. But we'll post it on our Twitter. We'll post it and people will know. I'll do that same thing with the Umbris. I'm going to be doing this, it's Tuesday night right now, but I'll do this aiming every Thursday night around 9:00 at night. And Adam does proxy time on Sundays at 7:30. He's a lot better at that, being consistent, and he does some wonderful work. We put out small, short videos on YouTube and TikTok every Monday and Friday, just talking about a random card that seemed kind of cool. And what else do? We have a podcast that comes out every Wednesday called the CommanderSmiths. If you can see that. We've been doing this for 4 years, so we're a lot of fun, in my opinion, but I'm biased. So hopefully you enjoyed that, and this will definitely be done. Thanks for watching. Bye.